Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today with me I have two very special guests. I have Super Teeds. Hello, Teeds.
Hi, trainers.
Yay, she did the thing. And then I have the Content Cowboy.
Hi, trainers.
That's not your thing.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeehaw. Hello, everybody.
There we go. So today we're doing something that I'm actually extremely excited about. I went kind of crazy on stream. Some of y'all probably saw this. And I built a 21 bullet pointed list of things that I think that the game needs, like really needs. Some of them are a little give or take, and I did it in priority order too. So we're starting off hot and heavy with number 1, which I think is like some of the most important things, like from 1 all the way down to 21. And yeah, I'm excited because we're gonna have like a little mini discussion after each one. So let's jump into it because I don't know how long this is going to be. So number 1 is separate the queues for solo duo and 5 stacks. And I put in parentheses, this is a tangible leaderboard grind. So my thought process is simple, right? Like if you separate solo duo queue, maybe solo duo trio, if they want to group it that way, from 5 stacks, even if there's nothing else changed about the game, it gives players of small party sizes a tangible grind. Thoughts?
Oh, okay, you're done. Yes, I 100% agree. I was actually so I play a lot of solo queue, and it's so obvious when you're against like a 5-man queue, and it's very painful because they all just rotate together. And I do think that if they did separate the queues, I feel like it would actually help a lot with the frustrations with solo queue or even duo and trio queue. I just like personally don't. No, like, I'm not sure if they did this in other MOBAs, to be honest, but I think they do try to keep the queues separate.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a last resort thing in the MOBAs I've played, but in Pokemon Unite, I think they do it as quick as, like, they try to get you in the queues as fast as you can, which unfortunately puts you into, like, 5-man queues a lot, unfortunately. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right, Krashy. When you run into a 5-person team, as I also play primarily solo, it's so apparent, and you have to, it just has to be kind of a stroke of luck if you have any chance of winning a game like that. So I know that they're just trying to have you queue into a game really, really quickly. A lot of MOBAs split the queues up, and they absolutely should, because it does put people who are not on a 5-person team at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah, and so even from my perspective, it's funny that y'all both kind of leaned in that direction because I totally agree with you. But my perspective is coming from just when you have a leaderboard that's dominated by teams, it ruins all incentive for me to try. Like when I get on the game, I play, I could play a 6-hour session of games and my rank could maybe go up anywhere between like 10 to like 50 points, depending on how well my day went. And then you look at the leaderboard and maybe I'm sitting 1,300, 1,400 and teams are 2,200, 2,300. And it's like, I'm never going to catch them. So it ruins my incentive to play even. And, and so yeah, like I never want to run into them in game, but I don't even want them to just be holding slots. But it's kind of the sentiment of like, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Like it's not their fault. I totally respect them playing 5-stack. I have no problem with it. It just is really, really tough for like a lot of solo duo players.
I do wish they added like a different leaderboard for solo and things like that. It would be nice to see like who would actually be at the top, because it is very like lean towards 5-man parties. Like it's just impossible to overtake them as a solo queue player.
All right, so this is where things get a little intense. So number 2 is
number 2. There are 20 of these.
Yeah, there's 21. Yeah, there's 21. Well, some of the early ones are the intense ones because they're like what I think the game is like the number 1 and 2 things that the game needs. Number 2, and this is a word I don't like to throw around a lot, but I put ranked rework, and I put that it needs to be much harder to achieve higher ranks, and then in parentheses, I put that this will improve the accuracy of ranks. So my thought process is, if you can get all the way to masters in like, I think I've seen some people do it in like 70, 80 games, well, the rank system can't be super accurate because 70, 80 games is kind of a small sample size. When you require a low number of games, it requires a low, like kind of a low percentage of consistency. But if that grind was to take like 300 games minimum, like with 100% win rate, which no one would do, it would require a lot of consistency. So then, when you're a veteran player, it's like, oh wow, that guy's a veteran player. It makes the grind more accurate because it took so much more work to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the ranked grind in this game is incredibly easy.
Yeah.
It's weird because like some people do complain about how hard it is at the same time because of solo queuing. But at the same time, I think I actually didn't look into this, but I've heard from people that you can. I don't know if you said this, Krashy. I don't remember who said this, but you can like get into master just by losing, even because
Yeah.
of performance points.
Yeah, I've seen something like anywhere between, and again, I can't even confirm this, but somebody like,
Yeah.
I know that somebody has done like the testing on it. You can get into masters with like a 42 to 45% win rate is like the lowest that you can get into masters with, and it takes a lot of games.
Wow.
It takes like a ridiculous amount of games because it obviously slows the process. But yeah, and again, I'm not sure if that's true, but I definitely know that you can get there with a 50% win ratio, which is still kind of silly if you look at it like that, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they need to make it harder for sure. It doesn't feel, well, personally for me, it doesn't feel like a crazy thing
Yeah, and I think
to reach master.
for context, I think whenever it's so hard to separate what harder means in the current like context of the game, because it is hard now because you're dealing with
Yeah.
so many issues. But if I was to say make it harder, I'm also trying to solve some of those issues. So I'm not trying to compound issues. It would be like if the ranks are more accurate and if the matchmaking is better, then some of the issues you run into where you're like trying to like carry a player that's really new or doesn't really understand the game, some of that goes away naturally. So it feels hard now for a different reason, but it would be hard for a different reason with changes. Jake, what do you think about that thought?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it should be harder to rank up. Then again, if they kept matchmaking the way it was and you still pair with vets and ultras, you'd be like, no, I played 500 games. Why am I getting paired like this?
You're seeing where I'm at with it, because it's like obviously I wouldn't make this change just on its own.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's crazy. So, well, speaking of matchmaking, number 3 is tighter matchmaking, more restrictive.
Oh
and
God.
2 and 3 go hand in hand, because the beauty of it is if you increase the consistency and number of games required to rank up to these ranks, and then you tighten the matchmaking simultaneously, it makes the matches much more high quality, because a veteran player would be much more true to what a veteran player would be. And then if you have 10 veteran players all in one match, that's a pretty good game. You know what I mean? You're kind of where you're supposed to be. So, I think that 2 and 3 kind of have to go hand in hand, because you want the tighter matchmaking to actually matter because the ranks are more accurate.
Yeah, the rework would do a lot of things. Like it would have to flow in together pretty well. Can't just change one thing because that would just mess a lot of things up. But yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, going into a queue with just only your rank sounds amazing. Or like,
yeah, and the cool thing about that is like your rank it's pretty wide. Like some of these ranks have like 3-4 classes, so it's not like it's, you know what I mean? It's not like we're asking for a lot in a sense.
Because I played like other MOBAs, when I saw like when we first started Pokemon Unite, and I was like in such disbelief in how vast it was. Like in Vet or Expert, I don't remember, but you just get queued with like 2 under, 2 above or something, and I was just like, that's insane to me that you could just get completely new players to like I don't know if, to be fair, in my higher ranked games I still get players that seem to be new, but I don't know. I just think the quality to me is just like, I do think they need to single out the ranks and make it was so much smaller. I also don't think I should be going against I know at the start when I played, I always got matched with, because I didn't start my rank grind until much later when I started. I just kept going with master players constantly.
Yeah.
And it was just very frustrating. I don't know if the enemy team was, but maybe they were too. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because I was talking to another YouTube content creator, Kaiju, about matchmaking a little while back. And something she had mentioned was there was a game, I'm going to get all the information wrong here, but there was a game where they wanted to change the matchmaking to really tighten it up based on skill level. And a lot of people actually didn't like the change, because what would happen is every match people would queue into was very, very sweaty, for lack of a better term. You know, it was a really hard match because you were really, really close in skill. And people actually had a lot more fun when they'd queue into matches where they had kind of a decent skill advantage and another match where they had kind of a decent skill disadvantage, because you'd have games that felt like, yes, we're doing it, we're really crushing it. So interestingly enough, I wonder if behind the scenes part of what's happening at Unite is they do want you to sometimes queue into a game where you do really, really well and you feel like, oh no, actually I'm super good. And then every once in a while, if you queue into a rough game, you can go, well, that was 5-stack, they all had TTV, so moving on.
See, it's funny.
So I wonder if they actually specifically don't want to tighten it up. However, I would love to be in more competitive games in theory, for sure.
Yeah, and maybe there's like a compromise, right? It's like it doesn't have to be the most hardcore system, but maybe just a little bit more. But actually, to speak on that, I don't remember what game y'all were talking about. I remember I watched the video with you and Kaiju. But for example, not that long ago, when Call of Duty Warzone was coming out, the Battle Royale, it was a big conversation about skill-based matchmaking. Now, here's the thing. The difference between a game like that and Unite is that Unite is ranked and skill, and like it's inherently kind of skill-based matchmaking focused, because that's the whole point of ranked. But Call of Duty Warzone doesn't have a ranked mode. So the conversation around skill-based matchmaking in Warzone was really like about, do we want every single match that's ever played in existence to be skill-based matchmaking, or would we prefer it to be more of like this random free-for-all? And I know in that community, it really seemed like no one wanted skill-based matchmaking. And I think like, you know, if you were to take like, say like a game like Apex Legends or something, if they were to have like this really random, like, oh, anybody can get in with any ranks, I feel like that would be problematic. I mean, obviously I'm speaking for multiple communities here, but
yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to number 4, which this one is a personal desire that I have in pretty much any ranked game I ever play, which is prestigious rewards. And that is like outfits, banners, titles, stickers, hollowware. And this is the kicker for it, because I wrote this in all big caps. I put all of these rewards would be seasonal exclusives, meaning that when you get to like, and I put, it could start at like great rank plus. When you get to great rank, you get, let's say, the sticker. That's for great rank. And it will never come back. Like whatever that sticker is, it never comes back. Season 2 sticker, boom, you got it. It's yours. It never comes back to the game. And then this would, I wrote a specific word, but for ranked, this would drive the addiction for ranked. It would make it to where you just have to go after that thing, right? I have to make it to Masters to get that unique seasonal hollowware, because like, oh, maybe season 2 is a Garchomp hollowware, and if I don't get that hollowware, it's never coming back, and I'm never going to not have it, which leads to FOMO, or, you know, FOMO in like from what I know in the investing world is fear of missing out. So it really drives participation, and it drives the incentive to try really hard and to grind, because you want all these things that are essentially going to be gone.
Yeah, I think progress is a very important factor to keep people wanting to play, for sure. I know like in some games that I played, I just really liked that I was able to, well, I don't know if you watched that video I made a bit ago, Krashy, about the shiny skins. I talked about it a bit in my video. And separate from ranked, just speaking about progress, like because in the game that I played, the more you play, I'll just say in Pokemon, the more you play this Pokemon, you get ranks for this Pokemon. It shows how much you played this Pokemon. And I know that on its own will probably have people just keep playing just to get the shiny skins, etc. And for ranked, in that game too, they did do things like that as well. So you do get like exclusive borders that don't come back. So you can only get it for that ranked
teens,
season.
We're getting down the list. That one's later.
Oh no!
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry.
No, we definitely will be touching on like what we've called like a mastery system for unlocking things, for sure. Yeah, because you're right. It's all about giving people something to chase after.
Yeah, it's really important. Like just to keep it really keep like for me it motivates me a lot personally
Oh yeah.
to just keep going. But yeah, I really do hope. Oh, I won't say more about that stuff, but with the rank stuff, I really do hope they add things like prestigious rewards because it does make you just want to grind ranked even more. So, um, and I remember when we got our rewards for the tickets, they had those diamonds on the master. Did
Oh
anyone find out
yeah.
what that was?
I never found out because
Yeah, I
my
was wondering what that
account
was.
my account that ended at like 1500 got 1 diamond, and my account that ended at
Yeah.
1300 had 2. So I'm like,
Wait, what?
I have no idea what that means. One of my friends was convinced that it was just old code left in the game, like, oh, they probably didn't mean to put that there, and I was like, I don't know, because I never understood what that was.
That's
Wow,
so
I kind of might even believe the idea of old code.
I
Given some of
do
the stuff
too.
that happens in this
Yeah.
game, I kind of think that's probably true.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Jake, what's your take on like seasonal exclusive never returning prestigious rewards?
I don't want any rewards ever. But no, you're right. You're so right. Lots of games do it. It's not a new concept. Not that you're coming up with a bad idea here. I'm
Yeah.
supporting your idea and saying lots of games have this.
Absolutely.
Every game I come from, every season, it's like this was a season 8 top rank thing. Yeah.
Yep.
It's important, and I'm honestly, out of all the things that I thought was going to come with season 2, I didn't necessarily think we'd see a huge map rework or anything like that, but I kind of thought some of those things would start to populate the game very quickly. I was a little surprised we didn't see more of that
Yeah.
moving into a new season.
Yeah, I agree,
Uh-huh.
especially with like how the trainer profile is, and there's so many of these little tiny things that they could be implementing into the game, like profile banners and the little stickers, and that's why I'm throwing it on there. Like if you hit great rank, you get a sticker, right? Like that's nothing crazy, but it's still something to go after. And then,
Yeah.
man, think about it. Think about it. We're season 2 right now. Imagine like season 24, and you see someone wearing that season 2 Master Garchomp skin, and you're like, wow, that's an OG player. You know what I mean? Like that feeling is something that is just so unique and cool. But let's jump into number 5. Now this one is a really like harsh take, but I'm going to throw a compromise in there as well. So me personally,
Okey-dokey.
I said remove surrendering from ranked. The compromise is that if you want to keep surrendering in, it needs to be unanimous. That is my only compromise personally, because I am so tired of seeing this stupid rectangle pop up on my screen when I am trying, I'm doing the best that I can, and I just know that my teammates are defeated and they're ready to get out of there. Because me personally, with my kind of desire to always win, I just can't surrender. I can't do it. I have to push the whole time. And there's like very niche cases where at the end I'll be willing to do it.
It's very I can understand, and I also agree in a way as well. It's just with like Zapdos existing, which is why I think surrendering before 2 minutes doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
And even after, even if the enemy team got Zapdos, you still can win. I think the biggest thing with surrendering for me is that the people that do it on my team, when they do it, they also just give up in the game and don't try anymore.
Yes.
And I've lost so many games because they didn't want to try anymore. It's a really hard topic. I'm not really sure how I feel about it 100%, but I personally do not surrender, like, unless they're just spamming in my base zone with the scores from Zapdos or something like that, and it's just a hard lose.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very obvious hard lose.
The way that I see it too, and I'll toss it over to Jake, is that I feel like the surrender vote that happens is more often than not a way for someone to be angry and to show their frustration to their teammates than to actually want to leave the game. And I feel like that with it being available at 5 minutes and it being spammable like every 30 seconds or whatever it is, I feel like that is what really turns it from being something that could make sense where it's like, okay guys, it's time to leave, versus something that's like shoving it in players' faces that they're doing poorly. And I just feel like that, there's like that window, right? When Zapdos is taken in, there's no win condition. We totally understand that. It's like, it's anywhere between like a minute and a half and like 30 seconds left in the game. Yeah. I would be willing to sit that extra minute to minute and a half every single game if it meant that people wouldn't act in the way that I just explained. Because that sentiment of just, oh, I'm giving up and I'm mad and I'm going to shove it in your face the rest of the game, I think is really unhealthy for the game.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I don't know really where I'd land on this because I understand why there'd be a surrender vote, and I kind of don't want to grief my teammates if everyone wants to surrender the game. I, however, don't ever surrender really ever. The only time I do it is the situation you just brought up, which is post zap. They've been stomping us all game. They just got Zapdos. The game is totally over, and I'm happy to go. Yeah, GG. Moving on. It really is like it's just a Machamp was all alone. They got KO'd, and then immediately you see the surrender thing, and now that Machamp is not playing for the rest of the game. It's a weird, frustrating thing. If we were to remove surrender, the only time I'd want it around would be as if people were actually AFK, because that I think those matches should end a lot faster, and you should not be punished for them. That's like a separate thing, but
yeah,
those can be really frustrating where you're like, okay, I guess 2 people are gone, and I just lost 16 points somehow.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, next point is going to be number 6, and this is remove bot matches from ranked. Just flat out.
Please.
Yes.
I think for the sake of explanation, at least on my point, is that the entire reason, at least in my mind, that a ranked system would exist is to quantify a player's skill versus that of their peers. And my peers are not AI. They're not robots. They're not that. That's not who I'm playing ranked for. And not only do I literally think it's a waste of time, because it just feels so pointless I should have said that. Not only do I think it's a waste of time, when you're in Masters, it's literally a waste of time, because you're gonna gain 4 points, and gaining 4 points for a 10-minute game is like, I would have rather have lost a 15, 14, 13 point game against humans, because the return on that would have been higher had I won. So the bot match, it doesn't even do anything positive other than waste your time.
Yeah, it really does, because I wasn't even on a lose streak. I don't know why I got these bot matches. I don't know, because I'm from Australia, my queue times are just terrible compared to other servers. But I was trying to get footage for a video, and they put me into 3 bot matches in a row, and I've never heard of that before, ever.
I haven't either.
So, and I have it recorded, and I was speaking to Max at the time, and because I was streaming it, and it was just like unbelievable that I was able to. It wasn't in ranked though; it was just in standard, because I was just getting footage. I don't know what video I was making, but it was such a waste of time, because obviously I don't want to use footage that's just from bot matches. And yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if I've ever heard of a game doing that personally, but I think it's like a mixture of quick queue times and to make a player feel good if they're losing, just to keep them playing or something. I don't know. I don't really know the idea.
Whatever the intention, I don't think it's working. So it might be time to go back to the drawing board on that one. Jake, do you have any other thoughts on this one?
Sometimes I need the bots, gotta get a good win in there. No, you're so right. I mean, I don't think I kind of get it in beginner or something like that, because people don't even know they're going up against bots. Even then, I don't think it's necessary. But when you're in a high rank, I haven't seen a bot match in a while, but every once in a while you can tell one gets thrown at you. And just like Teed said, I'll check and I'll go, no, I'm not on a loss streak. I lost like 1 or 2 matches maybe. And sometimes you get thrown a bot match. It's so frustrating, because I have to sit there. You've held me hostage for 10 minutes because I'm not going to throw it. So now I have to like really try against this bot Charizard.
You want to know what I do when I get a bot match? Because you can tell when the game starts, like at the loadings or at the pick screen. I pick Talonflame, I AFK the full game, and then I use Fly and get Zapdos and win. That's what that's how I've learned to handle.
That's like a bot speed run. It
is because like especially if I'm streaming, I'm like, all right, chat, I'm not playing this game. I'm gonna sit here. What do y'all want to talk about for 9 minutes, and then I'll go play the final minute, because it's just it really is a waste of time. And don't get me wrong, I've lost doing that once, but most of the time I win. All right, so a lot
of people play Greninja in ranked, I think.
Yeah. Have y'all? Oh, also, this is a super side note, but the Absol bot is actually so strong, it's terrifying. Completely random
I don't think
thought.
I've won against it.
So number 7 is this list is meant to be what the game needs. So this is like a natural thing. I think I don't really need to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. This is just quality of life changes. It's a blanket term, and I wrote controls because I think some of the controls in this game are weird. The spectator mode could use some TLC just for a couple extra features. Having, you know how like you can pick your favorite Pokemon for the starting screen, like having that become your first Pokemon on the list.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Build loadouts so you don't have to rechange your items every single time. Seeing the held items of your enemies and your allies at the end of the game, seeing the numbers at the end of the game instead of having to go into the battle history. Seeing things like your attack weight and SP attack stacks in the game, that would be nice so you don't have to track it yourself. I think on the leaderboard it'd be nice. I don't think it could get frustrating, but I think showing deaths or like how many times you got knocked out could be a nice thing to the leaderboard, because that could give players a reason to look at their own death count and kind of like see, oh, maybe that's something I should learn to cut down on. And then I put like in bold caps, just more information, right? More information inside the game. So just like massive, this whole point is just quality of life. And I'm sure I missed some things, right? Because this is just meant to be a gigantic bullet point.
Yeah. That was a lot.
Yeah.
But I agree with a lot of it.
Yeah, again, I'm not even really honing in on any one thing. It's just like, just improve that overall polish kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the depth thing, when I do talk about some things that I think would make the game, like I think a lot of people that play Pokemon Unite like that it's like they like the very casual feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the death thing might add a bit of less casual feel to it. Although I don't disagree, because just as someone who plays a lot of other traditional MOBAs, I personally would like to see. But I do think it might encourage toxic behavior.
Yeah, and so I think about that too. And I think like whenever I talk about a lot of the stuff I talk about, especially that being one of them, it's more of like I wouldn't mind seeing it in ranked, but don't really care if it's anywhere else. That said, that one I could give or take that one if I'm being completely honest, because I do think it's important to not look at Pokemon Unite like I'm trying to create League of Legends, right? Because I'm not trying to create League of Legends, but I'm also trying to push it in a sense where it's like it is more competitive and it is a little bit more suitable for what a ranked mode should be. So yeah, on that one I'm going to completely agree with you, because I can see the comment now, well, don't you think showing deaths would be toxic? It's like it could be. So if they chose never to do that one, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I do think it's like Pokemon Unite is also very I guess it's weird because this game is very game sense heavy, but also very friendly to people who haven't played MOBAs before. Because I think I did a poll a while ago, and I think a lot of the players that joined in were just people who played on the Switch and didn't play a MOBA before. So I do like the casual feel of it, but obviously in ranked, I do think it should be a lot. It's just weird that ranked and standards are pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah, so similar. So similar.
There's no difference. Wait, do you if I go a bit off topic here, do you both have how many was it alt accounts? How many alt accounts do you both have?
I have 5 accounts total.
I have, how many do I have? I have 3 others. I just use them for the one time I climb them to masters for like whatever little series I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 accounts that I actually play on, and then like the other 3 are just ones that I've done things on.
Yeah, I have an old account, but I haven't used it much yet. But one of my friends made an old account, and I think they just played the tutorial, and then they bought one Pokemon and they unlocked ranked right away, and the game just told them to go play ranked. So I just didn't know how that.
Oh really? Yeah, you usually have to get like level 6. So it's like it's level 6 to unlock ranked, and then it's level 8 to unlock quick matches, which I think is silly. Actually, now that I think about it, that should be on my list, is like change the ranked requirements. But that's a completely thing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they don't make it sound very serious to be honest.
I can't believe
you can play ranked now.
I can't believe my 21 list just turned into a 22 list. That's on the list somewhere.
Krashy.
Yeah, I'm not. I did my best.
I'm gonna get some things added to this list now. I gotta think of something.
If you do have them, bring it up, because now is the perfect conversation. I mean, we're already, we're 30 minutes into this conversation. We're halfway or less than halfway through the list, so I'm happy with it. Number 8, because this is kind of me pulling from chat when I was making this list, because I did want to take people's like their opinions and stuff into account. This one is better communication. Now, this is a dual-pointed bullet point because I think that this stands for in-game communication with your team, being more accurate, having more abilities to say the right thing to them with like the quick communication, but also better communication from the developers. You know, shoot us a roadmap from time to time, you know, give us, you know, patch notes in English on time instead of giving it to us like 3 days late. You know, things like that, just like better communication, like the overall sentiment of it.
I mean, yes,
Yeah.
100%. Like those patch notes, oh my god.
I was so frustrated when they released those English patch notes like 3 days later, because it's like by then we've all Google translated it, by then we've all like kind of understood what it is, and it just felt like, to me, it felt like an admission of like, oh yeah, we remember y'all. Like, it's like, okay,
Do they
like
even
things.
post it every time? Like, I don't even think they posted it on their Twitter every single
They
time.
usually do. It's usually behind, but it's never been 3 days behind or like 2 days behind. And I like, because I quote tweeted when they finally put out the English patch notes, and I quote tweeted it, and I'm just gonna be honest. I said, this is embarrassing. I was like, this is embarrassing that your largest social media account is getting the patch notes 2 days later. Like, and I'm not here. I'm not here to spread English supremacy or anything, right? Like, I'm totally fine that they can give the other regions and the other languages their patch notes, but I just think that it should be a better coordination, you know, between their own company. Like, to me, it seems like it's more telling about a slight mismanagement than it is anything else. Because if you're all on the same page across your entire company, then you're moving together, you're communicating together, you're working together with the different departments, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to see. I want to make sure that everything is going smoothly internally for them. So,
well, it's you got to admit it's weird that the patch notes are up on a guy's channel who calls himself a cowboy before they're on like an official thing from the company.
I
it's
love
pretty
that you
odd.
said that. Yeah,
it's like, hey, this YouTuber doesn't even know all the words.
And
he's
then,
like, I bet that means surf.
Exactly. I was gonna say, I watched Teeds' video covering the patch notes, and she's like, I don't remember what this thing means, like, because we're all just kind of like doing our best with these notes.
Yeah.
And it'll say some really weird translation or some like random thing we don't understand. And so yeah, it's definitely just better communication. All right, number 9. Wait, what do you want to add?
I just wanted to say, you just mentioned roadmap, and I was just like, oh my god, that would be so cool if they released. Like, it'd be like very healthy for the game too.
Oh, absolutely.
I really wish they did something like that.
And I will say this: I do understand the predicament with having really good communication or like over communicating from the developer side, because if a developer ever over promises and then falls short, that's pretty damning. So I understand there's a balance to find there, but I think, you know, some is better than none. So number 9 is respawn timers. I can't stand the way that these. I'll just let you take it away. I can't stand these respawn timers.
I'll just a mini rant. Okay. So the timers, for one, I don't like. They're based on how well you do in a game, which I find incredibly strange. And then the second thing is how fast they are, because there were so many fights where like our team does so well in the team fight that they would all come back full health and then just wipe. Like, I've had situations like that as well. So that's just summarize. I think I spoke about this before in one of my videos. I don't remember which one, but it's just incredibly. I don't know if this is what you're going at with Krashy, but I just don't like how short they are or how long they are. I think that's a comeback mechanic for the losing team. If you take out the person who's carrying, so then they're just down for like a whole minute.
Yeah, I think the longest respawn I've ever had was like a 48-second respawn timer, and it's like 48 seconds in the last final couple minutes of the game is like an eternity. It's like almost 10% of the whole game. Like, what do you mean? What am I supposed to do?
like really, oh my god. But yeah, it's really quick to come back to, because like you know they give you the speeds thingers as well, the jump pads. It's just like sometimes team fights just don't feel rewarding sometimes. Like, I think they should be if your team managed to work so well together that you guys have the advantage in that team fight, but then they all just come back anyway. And sometimes I would just go back to heal, because like my team is not going to do Dreadnought in time. I should just prepare for the second team fight or something like that.
Yeah, it's like we even call it like refighting. Like when I'm making calls for like our team and stuff, we're like, all right, go heal and let's refight. It's like, what do you mean? Like I've never made that call in MOBA history, but I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
That's a great term for it. Refighting. That's true.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah. So Jake, what do you think about current respawn timers?
It is weird, right? I think I like it early game, like let them get back to lane. But you're right. For 90% of the game, there's no respawn timer at all. You can knock out, 4 enemies at their base and they will land on you in that jump pad in 2 seconds. And then at one point in the game, your respawn timer is 58 seconds and you just have to watch your team lose zap. It's very odd. It's a very, very odd. And I think Teed's nailed it. It's a comeback mechanic. They have a lot of them in this game, and it's just it's set up to where a team that is not as good has a chance to win, a legitimate chance to win in some ways that are really forced. The game is really forcing some of these scenarios.
Yeah, perfectly said.
Yep, couldn't have said it better. I mean, comeback mechanics are definitely nothing crazy for us, right? Like we're used to it in this game, but I think that they could definitely loosen up a little bit.
It's Mario Kart the MOBA, but I do love it.
Yeah. They're getting the blue shell instead of a banana, and I'm not a huge fan. So, all right, number 10, and this one I don't even have like a really good idea for it. MVP system rework / removal. The MVP system is useless to me. It means nothing.
Yeah.
People also kind of throw it my way, and they say, it actually kind of promotes bad gameplay. And I kind of get that take. And to me, I never look at the end of the game and go, oh, my team's so bad, I'm MVP. Like, I've never done that. So it's like, I don't know what to do with this little system. I get the purpose, right? It's a dopamine system. Like, it's like, wow, nice, I did it. I was the one. But I don't know. For me personally, it just brings no value to the game whatsoever. So I don't know.
No, I agree. So the scoreboard, I think, is kind of very misleading. There are times like, I remember this one specific game where I was Pikachu, and I had the lowest score in the game. So I had I think 40 not 40 points, just 40 score or something. I had 0 points scored, but it was a very close game, and we won that game because I managed to defend our goal zone from 3 enemies the whole time my team was scoring. And if they did score, I'm pretty sure we would have lost. I don't remember the exact details, but that doesn't show on the scoreboard. And there are a lot of times when my teammates do something really good and it doesn't show on their scoreboard. And I think League of Legends, I didn't play a lot of League of Legends, but I think how their MVP works. I know that I can't remember. Did any of you play League by chance?
I haven't for a very long time.
Yeah, but it's been a long time. I wish I could remember the scoring in it.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I remember the supports could get it if they healed and mitigated or I guess took damage. I think it went by those stats, but if anyone in the comments remembers or could explain that, that'd be great. But I remember something like the MVP scoring that being more valuable than in Pokemon Unite. It's just very misleading, and I do think it promotes people, if they think the game is lost, they will just try to get maybe points in to get the MVP crown, etc. I've had that happen a few times as well. So
it's rampant. I don't even know if that's why they do it, but just seeing someone peel off from the fight that you're losing, score 100 points, and then them have the MVP at the end. I don't know what the thought processes behind it from the game's perspective. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I've noticed something in gaming, and I want to do my best to explain this. When you give a team game a form of metric that doesn't directly correlate to the win, that gives some kind of an incentive to do whatever the thing is that the game basically is calling to do. It will drive player behavior to play for that thing rather than playing for the win. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's so important that we don't have like I've heard suggestions, for example, where someone's like, oh, ranked points should be based on maybe could be a multiplier in how many ranked points you get based on how many kills you get. And I'm like, no, because what's going to happen is we're going to be playing pseudo team deathmatch in the middle of our game because people are going to be trying so hard to hit these little checkpoints and these little achievement things that they can get to increase their points, and instead of just playing for the win. Like, the only thing that should matter is the win. So if there's this MVP system that kind of like hard promotes scoring, well, people are going to go out of their way to score for it. And scoring is part of the game, absolutely, but it's not the one-to-one direct way that you win. And so having this little system, it just does nothing. If anything, it does worse for the game.
Yeah.
I think so too, yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's just another one of those like, oh, cool, you know,
Yeah.
we lost, but I actually did pretty good, and I get to post the screenshot on Twitter being like, my team. You know, I feel like I see so many of those, and I think, I don't know. I look at this scoreboard right now, and I have a good feeling you were not present at all, Greninja.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it.
I always try
the Greninja.
to. I always try to remember or remind people that like the scoreboard really isn't telling enough, because I have knockout games where I scored 0 points, like literally, because it's like scoring wasn't the only thing that mattered to me. Or like scoring at a jungle sometimes is hard. I don't spend the majority of my time in lane, or, you know, playing Decidueye. You think I'm going to have a lot of score on Decidueye? Like, not really. Like, or a Ninetales. Like, it's like I'm just not going to score that much. So, yeah, so that's that thought. Now, this next one, this is definitely much more ranked focused. But I put harsher quitter / like AFK penalties, and then I put in parentheses time bans. I think that if we have this little slap on the wrist fair play point system, it's not going to change player behavior. And I think when it comes to giving out penalties and punishments for poor behavior, what's necessary is to truly punish them accordingly, so that way it alters their behavior. So, you know, if you quit, now here's the thing. The unfortunate reality is that if you get disconnected and run into an internet issue, that's where the gray area is here, because I don't know how you deal with that. But at the same time, you know, the game needs to find a way to protect the other players that got abandoned in that game. So it's a weird thing here. But essentially, I put like stacking time bans. You know, if you're consistently doing this and leaving games, then they need to be consistently increasing your time ban and like keeping you out of ranked for a little while. Again, this is a little gray area one, but it's kind of like one of those ones that I definitely understand that the community is like, yeah, well, people just quit all the time and there's no punishment. So
Yeah, I do think a good way to counter that is to like look at how consistent it is. So if they're like regularly leaving games, then it probably is an intentional thing. But I do understand like sometimes you don't know if they just disconnected, especially because like on mobile and stuff, like it's so easy to run into issues with that. So I do think the best way is to probably look at if it's a consistent, like maybe like warnings, maybe.
Yeah.
And I know that the mobile that I play, they do that. They give us warnings first, like I think 2, and then we get a ban.
So it could be maybe like, the way I could see it working is like it could be warnings within an X amount of time period. So like let's say for a 7-day window, they'll give you 2 warnings, and if you keep disconnecting after those 2 warnings, it's like, all right, bro, we got to deal with you. And then after that 7-day period, you roll into the next week. It's like, okay, you know, we're starting clean. You've got your 2 warnings back. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you do have bad internet, you're not just doomed forever. But at the same time, I've always kind of thought of it like, if you have bad internet, should you really be a ranked player? Like, I don't really know. It's like, it's unfair, but it is fair, but it's unfair for other people. So
well. Like, it is unfair for the player, like they obviously just want to play, but like it is really unfair to the other 4 people that are playing in the game as well. So I do like, I personally would be very frustrated. Like, I just want to rank up, so it just sucks that I would have to deal with that too. As like, I don't know, this probably sounds a little bit mean, but it's just really, already the game is pretty frustrating with the rank system in itself. So, and the whole like reporting system, I feel like it's not very strong either. Like the amount of AFKs I get in my game is actually insane.
Oh, I personally think the reporting system does nothing. Like absolutely nothing.
I don't remember. I know that if you click on the fair play things, it tells you what it does, but I can't remember what it said.
Well, so it's like if you fall under 80 points, you can't queue for ranked. But I think that the fair play system is so forgiving that it's like, does that even happen? And when it does, they can just get their fair play points back and then they're fine. Like, it's like, so to me, it's like this community policing kind of system where you have to report them and then they lose their points. And it's like, I just think it's a more like another fluffy kind of looking system. Like it looks cool, like yeah, it's doing its job, but I don't really think it's doing anything. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think repeated issues is what they should really punish. Like I actually don't care if someone disconnects one time. It totally
Yeah.
happens. So but yeah, if it happens a lot, I think they should be like, hey, maybe you don't play this mode for a while.
Or
Maybe
just
it's your
yeah.
phone, maybe it's your internet, maybe it's you get upset and quit. Either way, you know, it kind of reminds me, we all have a Discord, and you get people in there who are just for whatever reason don't want to participate with the rules given. So you kind of give a warning, and then it's like, hey, they're doing it again. You know, they're like doing the thing that we were like, please don't do that. So I think at some point the game should go, you are not participating correctly. You know,
my roommate's dog is barking. It's cute. We have visitors over. But yeah, no, I completely agree. So this is kind of the part of the list where things they're starting to mellow out. Some of these are, in my opinion, again, I'm very give or take on some of these, but I wanted to build like a really full list. So this next one is exclude new Pokemon from ranked for anywhere between 3 and 7 days. I think that for me, it's like, let's give the community time to learn it. Let's give the game time to see if there's any bugs with it. Let's give the player base time to get through the honeymooning phase. Because I don't know about y'all, but I've gotten in some of these games where I'll lock like Decidueye and someone throws the entire game because they didn't get it. And I don't want to say that it's the most common thing that happens, but oh my gosh, I've been in a game. This one really blew my mind. I've been in the game where I could tell on the pick screen that every single person wanted the new Pokemon. I think it was when Greedent happened. And guess what happened at the 5-minute mark? Every single one of them surrender voted me out, and I didn't even get to play my game. And it was like, are you kidding me? Like, y'all literally all 4 wanted to play Greedent so bad you're willing to take a loss to get me out the game. Like, so I think that like a nice little grace period, again, 3 to 7 days. I dropped it low to 3 because it's like, I don't expect them to, you know what I mean? This is Pokemon Unite, it's not League of Legends. But yeah, give us a little grace period to experience the new Pokemon before throwing them into the ranked system.
No, that 100% makes sense. In Smite, you can't play a new, well, it's called Gods, and then you can't play a new God. And I think in Wild Rift and Mobile Legends, you can't. I don't remember which one it was, or if it's both, but I know you can't play. I don't know what they use in it, but you can't play anyone with if you haven't played them before, I think.
So yeah, it basically puts like a prerequisite on you to have played them a bit.
Yeah, because in Pokemon Unite you can play like everyone, even if it's like your first time playing them in ranked.
Which and I think, it's not even that bothers me. It's just like it's just so new. Like nobody knows anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, are we really willing to take that gamble like on the ranked ladder? I don't know.
That's it. That's an interesting idea. For some reason, it really doesn't bother me in Unite, although I understand why they do what they do in other games. I think fixing a lot of the other issues inside the game, you probably wouldn't worry too much about this. But the situation you're talking about, it's every new champion or champions, every new Pokemon that comes out. Everyone tries to insta-lock it, and if they don't get it, you can totally see it reflected in their play, where they're like, well, I guess I'm spinning in a circle in base because I didn't get Decidueye. I know.
It's super, like, I just get so disappointed when something like that happens. I'm just like, come on, guys, no way. All right, number 13 on the list, and again, very give or take. I mean, I say it's give or take. This is something that I think is going to be incredibly important in the future, but it's also something that I look at and I say, I don't know if this is ever going to happen. So this is going to be an interesting one. Number 13 on the list, and the reason why it's so far down, is a pick ban phase for ranked, which I personally think is going to be very important for the meta control for the community. You know, right now we have. I did this discussion on stream, and I was talking about how I personally think that we have something going on where we have the meta, which is the perceived understanding of what's the strongest thing that you can do, right? That's what meta is, most effective tactic available. And then we have what I like to call the true meta. And the true meta is something that we've never actually experienced in Pokemon Unite because we experienced the game in blind pick. So the true meta would be counter picking your enemies, thinking about draft strategy, picking your battle items based on who you're going against, picking your held items based on who you're going against, We have never
Yeah.
experienced that in the game because there's no way to. So when I'm playing, like, let's say hypothetically there's a pick ban phase and I see that the enemy team is comprised of 3 SP attackers. Well, guess what? Maybe I throw on Assault Vest that game, but you don't get to do that right now. So in my opinion,
Yeah.
I do think that especially as the roster increases, this is going to be really important, but I am also like really skeptical to think that they'll ever add it. So
Yeah. I do wish they had the pick and ban system. I feel like I know who the community will ban. I think the big thing is the communication is really hard. So in the other MOBA I play, when we do the pick ban system in ranked, we can actually talk who we want to ban
yeah,
and then pick on our like. So we ban this Pokemon, then we can play this Pokemon, etc. And I also think that if you can see like what they're playing and then can choose your held items based on that, I think it might bring some more value to other held items as well.
absolutely.
Like, which is really good for the game because there's a lot of held items that are just sitting in the dust right now, like just not doing anything for us. So I would really like to see that. But I do think it's really hard to implement at the moment, especially without being able to really talk to
The
your
number
teammates.
one complaint that I've got whenever, or not even complaint, but pushback that I get on this one is, well, Krashy, you know, one thing about this game that they've obviously really leaned into is the time of the game. And if you add a pick ban phase, that's going to add like 5 extra minutes. And so I'm definitely like, man, yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't know if it would ever happen. But for ranked, I would love to see it. Jake, what do you think?
Well, I wish I had a unique thought, but I was going to say, you know, Krashy, one thing they've really prioritized is quick games.
I stole it.
Yeah, you stole, but it's so true. And I want to pick ban phase. It literally for one item, the assault vest. I literally want it for the assault vest because I like the assault vest. I want to run it. I also want to run certain Pokemon that I know, like, ooh, Slowbro would be great in this situation. But not knowing anything about the enemy team, you really do get funneled into the choices that everyone keeps making. And you're right, we don't know what the meta would be like if we added this other layer to it. What would happen if every game Lucario did get banned? We'd have to see a different formulation to the lanes. We'd have to see like different things. It would be exciting.
The beauty of it is, I think that you know, I think some of us have been playing MOBAs quite a while, and you know, I came from tournaments and playing in LAN events and things for MOBAs, and one of my teams that I played on in the past for a game that's no longer around, we had a draft strategy where we would intentionally ban bad Pokemon, or like in this scenario, and we would leave really strong meta picks open, and it would make the games really crazy. So like people are like, oh, well, if you do this, you're only ever going to see Lucario banned, and it's like, that's what you think until you run into someone that's like me, who is an agent of chaos, and I start banning Gengar every game, and then you know, one team gets Lucario and one team gets, say, Eldegoss. You know what I mean? And it gets really, really interesting. Of course, I will put the disclaimer here: a pick ban system is also reliant on the current roster size, so you know that's obviously to be considered. But I do think that the biggest thing is, like, for the meta, we have such a meta that gets and I'm going to use this word later, solved. We have a meta that gets solved incredibly quickly, where people figure out, let's say, anywhere between like 5 and 8 Pokemon that are just the best, and that's what you see, you know. Now for solo queue, it's a little bit more diverse than that, but like, if you look at the competitive scene, you're going to see Lucario, you're going to see Snorlax, you're going to see Mr. Mime, Eldegoss, you're going to see Pikachu. It's like you're going to see Cinderace. It's the same Pokemon every single game, and I just loved that when I've done anything draft related on my stream where we do it for fun, like community events, the game just gets so different and unique, and you're watching these matchups, and it's so incredible. I want to see that shine for the game.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things that you do on stream, Krashy, and I really like it because it changes it. Whenever I watch tournaments, I love watching some of the best players in the world go at it. And also it's a little like, yeah, okay, we're watching a mirror matchup again. Here's another mirror matchup. Oh, this time they went Pikachu instead of the other, you know, it's almost the same composition each time. And I would really love to see that evolve, because the strategy of the game increases exponentially once you do that. Once you go, oh, this person plays a good Sylveon, and they're going to get rid of our Lucario, and now we pick against each other. The matches change completely.
Yeah, I think that it would be crazy. All right, number 14. This is this one I had to add it because while it doesn't really, I don't really ever think about this one. I think it's a really big point. Remove the coin cap or drastically increase it. Like, come on now. I think that this goes into the grind of the game. You know, we want to play this game, but we want to feel rewarded for it. And I even have an entire little, a mini, like 2-sentence thing that I wrote down here, and I'm going to read it because I think it ties directly into this. I wrote, monetization is important. We need them to make good money. We want them to make good money, but they need to find a balance for free content that's a mutual benefit for us. That's a mutual benefit for them and for us. They give away free things, and what we spend is time. And then I wrote in big bold caps, humans' most valuable commodity is time. That is our most valuable thing in our entire lives. And when we play a game, we want that time to be greatly rewarded. And when they give us coins for free and when they give us content for free, they need to be rewarded. So it's a very mutual relationship between the player and the developer. And I think that having that really tight restrictive coin cap just does not feel good at all.
Yeah, I actually didn't really think about this one. This is very new for me. I think I would lean onto more. I mean, like you said, it's really important. You know, like they also make good money as well. I do think they need to increase it or remove it completely. I don't know which one is the better option, but yeah, I do think it's very restrictive for sure. That's so interesting. I never really thought about that.
Yeah,
one.
it's cool because if you, let's say they remove the coin cap, they could remove the coin cap, but they could lower the coin rate. So it would, there's still a balance to be struck, right? Because it could be infinite and we could play and always earn coins, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to earn them at a, you know, an extremely fast rate. So I think as long as they can strike that balance where, like I said, it's all about that mutual benefit. How much time do they want to get from us to equal X amount of content that we're going to unlock? Because if I'm playing the game, how long does it take me to earn 10,000 coins where it feels good for them and it feels good for me?
Yeah.
I think you're right. The number one thing it feels like a game wants is people playing it, right? I mean, that it feels like it's kind of obvious to go, yeah, give them more reasons to play. And the coin cap is a little weird. I get why they do it. I mean, I think it's kind of literally set up where a Pokemon comes out essentially every 3 weeks and there are only so many coins to get. So at some point, if you want a new Pokemon, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And it would just be nice, like, hey, man, if someone wants to play this game 100 hours a week and grind out these Pokemon, I think you could kind of let them.
Give it. Yeah, let me do that. I'm doing it for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's exactly how I feel. All right, number 15 is a real easy one. It says new content, maps, Pokemon, new items. The reason I put this on the list is because it's kind of obvious, but it is what the game needs, right? I think whenever I think about live service games, you know, games that are free to play, it's meant to exist and it's meant to just continue on. It doesn't have an end date. It doesn't have a you beat the last boss and it's over. They live and die. They live and die by their updates. If the developers are putting out great updates, the community's happy. So that means new content, right? New maps, new mons, new items. Like with the introduction of like Razor Claw, Weakness Policy, and the other one that's escaping me now. Oh gosh, I can't think of the third item. Choice specs, thank you. With the introduction of those items, man, did that make the game feel crazy for a little while there. I don't know if y'all felt the same way, but it was just like so revitalizing. It was insane.
So cool.
Yeah, it was really cool figuring it out and be like, oh wow, choice specs actually is really good. Oh wow, weakness policy is actually, you know, it's here. So
it's bad, but then it's good. We have to test it. We have to it's so cool.
Yeah.
So I and again, I think this is one's a given. I don't think anybody's going to give me pushback on this one. But yeah, just new content, right? Like all the time, like whenever you can, whenever it makes sense. Throw it our way. And we're getting, listen, as far as the Pokemon release schedule goes, I'm not complaining. Every 3 weeks or so, hey, bring it on. I'm good with it.
Yeah, same.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I wonder if they will because they introduced 3 new items. I wonder if they'll ever buff any of the other items that people don't use. I wish they made some more balance changes towards the items, but it's so difficult because of how it works with like money and items.
Yeah,
I know. I think that's their biggest problem.
We talked about this one. We talked about how is it different than them buffing and nerfing Pokemon when you've invested money? Because I don't personally see a problem with it. If I've invested a bunch of points or enhancers on an item, and they nerf it, it's like, wow, that sucks. But that exact same thing happened with Gengar, for example, so it's like, is that different enough, or how should we view that as a community?
That's a great point. And before they gave the super item enhancers, I would have said they're in a really sticky area with this. But now that they've given 3 level 30 items, even if they nerf 2 of your items that you got to level 30, if you play the game just a little bit, you'd easily be able to upgrade the others. So I think with that, it's time to balance these even slightly. Just make Rocky Helmet a little bit better and Buddy Barrier a little bit worse. That's it. Just try.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's like, I don't know. I do agree that, when we buy a Pokemon and they nerf it and balance it, I think maybe because they do it with the tickets and then you invest into like level over time, and maybe because it feels more. I'm not too sure. I understand your point, Krashy. It's the same but also different to me.
I understand.
How I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
it's just one of those weird things we have to think about. Also, just as a random side point, I wonder if they'll ever get to the point where, in order to shake things up, and actually we're going to get to that, in order to shake things up, they'll have like a season rollover. So let's say we go from season 2 to season 3, they give us like a balance patch or something, and then they say, oh, and for this coming season, we have vaulted Buddy Barrier, Scope Lens, and Muscle Band. And it's like, yeah, because that could think about the implications of just removing a few items and then giving 3 new ones. In its place, we're going to come out with like Focus Scarf, or what's another one people have said to me. I know there's a bunch of held items in the Pokemon world. I don't know, but you get my point. Like, that could be so very interesting. So just a random thought. All right, number 16, Teeds, is Mastery System. A casual,
my original idea.
And I put this in parentheses because I think there's a reason why I separated this one from the last idea. Is it's the casual grind. This is not. I've heard so many times where people are like, what do you think if you get to a high rank, you get a shiny skin? And I'm like, no, no way. Because I don't want to force people to be competitive players if they're not competitive players. I want 100%. Anyone that wants to get this cool, shiny new thing. And that's a funny, that was no pun intended, the cool, shiny new thing, to get it anyways. You can get it in quick matches. And I put an example: win 500 games as X Pokemon, score 20,000 energy as Y Pokemon. Like, they can have these like little checkpoints, these achievements that you can earn and get some cool content. And again, this also ties into that thought about monetization. They have to find that balance. How many things do they need us to do where it equals free content, so it's mutual for them, mutual for us?
Yeah. So the mastery, so how it works in Smite, basically it goes, so in it's gods that you use instead of Pokemon, and the points are called worshippers. So the more games you play as that god, the more worshippers you earn. And one rank is 1,000 worshippers, and you get maybe like around 20 to 30 if you win, or a lot less if you lose. And this is for like casuals, so it's really good for like the casual player base. If you reach the like rank 10, which is like the max for the skin, you have the option to buy it, but it's not used with like real currency. You can actually buy it with your, I guess in Pokemon Unite, coins.
Yeah.
So speaking of like, how is this beneficial for, the Tencent and things like that, if they want to spend money to get more coins to buy that, they can. Or they can just earn it over time. But that's how they do it in Smite,
so
at least.
The
and
mastery
it's really
system would be more of an unlock rather than the unlock potential to buy it, rather than just the tangible, I got it because I did the thing. I'd be fine with that too, because it's still something to work toward.
Yeah, it works really well in Smite too, because a lot of players actually post their worshippers page where it shows how many gods they got to diamond rank.
Yep.
And it's really fun for like the player base. Like,
also,
it's a lot of fun.
I had no idea that Smite and Teeds, your YouTube channel, works so similarly. Like, the more you do, the more worshippers you have. I was trying to make a Jake joke there.
It's pretty. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
I thought it was a great joke.
But yeah, that's something I would really like to see in Pokemon Unite. Like, I think working towards a shiny skin would keep people playing the game and would make them, happily grind and everything like that. Like just rewards in general, something players love. So, but instead they have like they don't just have rank 10. They have, I don't think this would work in Pokemon Unite because shiny skins would be like the end thing, right? But they have gold skins first, then they have the diamond skins, etc. So
that just sounds so cool to me. It sounds so cool to me.
It's so cool, yeah.
It is. It's really cool. And that was one of my favorite things about playing Smite is like, I finally Diamond Aries. Yeah, I was.
Wow, so many of my friends play Smite. Like y'all two play Smite.
Yeah,
Lush plays Smite. It's funny. I played Smite when it first came out, and I actually own the God Pack. I've never gone back to it. I don't even know why.
The God Pack is amazing. It's such a great deal, though. Yeah,
it
that's
is.
a random thought. I would love if they do that for this game, like down the line or something when we get a lot more Pokemon. But yeah. So Jake, anything to add to the mastery system point?
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, it would be so cool to have something like this. A lot of these ideas just fall into, the more dedicated you are to the game, the more they give you, the more the more prestigious rewards you can get, the more reason there is to continue playing ranked and keep playing your Cramorant because you're going to get this cool thing. I'm fully here for it.
All right, so this next one I kind of touched on with a specific word earlier, but this one is I put frequent updates, and I said change things just to do it, and then I put in parentheses, if you don't do this, the game becomes solvable. I think that this is a big issue with the game because what we have now is where we figure out the meta, we figure it out, and realistically the good players will figure it out in like a few days after a balance patch, and then we ride that meta for like a month and it doesn't change. There's nothing influencing the meta, no pick ban phase, nothing like that. And then poor Gengar has been sitting on the bench, poor Garchomp's been sitting on the bench for months, and it just feels so bad. And I even said something on stream when I said it. I said, change things just to do it. Get crazy with it. Go into the game and say, you know what? If I'm Timmy Studios, I'm looking at this game and I'm saying, man, they're really struggling with Garchomp. Let's give him 3 charges of Dragon Rush and see what it does. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously that's an over exaggeration, but you get my point, right? Like, just change things to change it. Like, just be bold with it without being ridiculous, kind of like I was just a second ago. But yeah, the more you can change things, and I'm not saying every other day or anything, but every couple weeks or so, give us some changes and feel things out and kind of experiment a little bit. It would really shake up the game. And this is the part that I love because I wrote this down as well. When you make changes, you create content out of nothing. You literally create content out of nothing, because what happens when you make a change? All the content creators run to it. This is what I figured out about this. All the competitive players start changing and they're moving their compositions. The community starts talking about, well, what's the viability of Fly versus Brave Bird now? It creates this entire movement throughout the whole community where one small change or a handful of changes really creates this ripple effect.
So the interesting thing about that is I think I like the idea a lot. I think the community a bit at the moment. I don't know what it is. Like, it's still hard to get people to rotate to certain objectives and things like that. So I'm thinking about how adaptable it is to just keep changing the meta, because in other like when they balance things, so when we're nerfing and buffing Pokemon, it's to balance it. And a lot of the changes I see a lot to do with like items and things, and because we don't really have that in Pokemon Unite where you can just buff or nerf items, because items itself can change the meta so much.
Absolutely.
But we just don't have that in Pokemon Unite, which kind of sucks. But I do see where you're coming from a lot. I haven't really thought about this, so it's very new to me. But I do think it does get stale with how same it is, like every time. And I would like to see buffs and changes. I think, we see Pikachu more now, which is nice. And Pikachu was like falling behind before. So things like that, it makes it exciting. Like, I know a lot of Pikachu players were very excited when Pikachu got buffed. I don't even know what happened with Lucario. I don't know what happened to Chomp, but I see where you're coming from, Krashy. Like having like a different meta, I guess. But I don't know how adaptable it would be. I don't know. I think I'm not understanding completely do you mean like just the Pokemon change? Like not map or anything?
I mean as far as this point goes, I'm honestly kind of open to anything. Like if you want to
Any changes?
like any changes, and I think some make more sense to be more frequent than others. Like there could be changes that happen season over season, and there could be changes that happen, mid season. So I think balance changes to Pokemon, for example, are really good for mid season changes, right? Like, oh, this Pokemon's overperforming. We're in week 2 of the season. Let's go ahead and nerf that down, and let's bring Garchomp up a little bit. That makes a lot of sense. But I think if you wanted to do more profound changes, like, hey, season 3, we're removing Zapdos and putting Articuno, like you talked about potentially in your video.
Yeah.
So
You watched
I watched it. Of course I did. So things like that could be season to season. Oh, Buddy Barrier's been overperforming. Going into season 3, we're gonna nerf it. Things like that could be much bigger changes that happen at the more appropriate time. Whereas I think when I say frequent updates, I'm kind of leaning into like, yeah, let's shuffle the Pokemon balance around a little bit.
Yeah. I think what confused me a bit was the making content out of nothing line was what confused me.
Yeah, so it's more so like okay, so for example, if they buff Garchomp, and this is just one change,
they buff Garchomp, guys. I gotta go. I gotta make.
We have to make a video, right? That's kind of what I
didn't
mean
even
about.
know they did this. Sorry, bye.
Oh, speaking of not know they did this, did y'all see that they announced another official tournament?
I did.
I did. Yeah.
I was kind of diving into the rules at like 3 a.m. last night, looking at it. It's So, random side note, I still believe my original thought that I do think that they're gearing this game for esports in the long term, but they'll get there. So I'm excited about that. Random side note. But yeah, so if they buff Garchomp, it creates content because we as a community now have to start a dialogue with each other. We have to talk about, well, how much did it buff it? Well, how good is it? Oh, is TTV going to start running it in their tournament teams? So it creates not necessarily like it does create content, meaning like we're going to create content about it, but it creates a conversation in the community. Whereas otherwise we're sitting in still waters. We're just sitting there floating adrift a similar meta that never changes. And instead, slight changes here and there really do start a conversation.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I took it as big changes every time, and that's what confused me. But I do think that slight changes, like, or slight to medium changes, like every 2 weeks or so, would be really good for the game. Like consistent content, like you said, with like, making content out of stuff like that. I know, like in Smite, they always had a patch every 2 weeks, and there was always changes to items, I think, more so than like gods. They balance gods when they needed to. So I think in Pokemon Unite would be nice to have like changes to Pokemon more often, because it does feel like you're running the same things every time, like Greninja, Cinderace, etc.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to see, like, I guess as an example, when you talked about Garchomp, creating discussion, trying to find a new meta around these Pokemon. It does sound all very exciting, so I would like to see more patches.
Yeah. Something I really like that you mentioned, the idea of maybe a fix to Garchomp is you give him multiple dashes, so he has a way to get in there. When they changed Greninja and they changed Greninja's double team, it was actually a really big change. But when you just looked at it as a patch note, you thought, oh, okay. But now double team, like, your abilities really do target it a lot. You've got these annoying things around you throwing water shurikens at you. So I would love to see more changes like that, personally. Kind of how you talked about with Garchomp. Something where it's not just like Ninetales special attack went up.
Yeah,
like something where it's like, no, actually, you now have 2 charges of Blizzard. What does that do? That would be really cool to see. And I agree, more changes, more often. Not crazy to the point where the game feels wacky every time you pick it up. But to the point where we get to play around with especially Pokemon that are a little that are not so ideal,
Yep. All right, we're starting to hone in toward the end of the list, and this one, naturally speaking, I had to add it. I'm going to throw my opinions on it, but I had to do it. Slight changes to endgame / Zapdos. So I know we could talk about this for days. Literally, we've done it already. But this is my personal take. I'd love to hear yours. It's one of those things that, like, I always try to remind people that there's always more than one solution to a problem. So even if you hear my opinion and you don't like it, totally fine. There's always a different opinion that somebody might have that would work really well. I said 1.5 times score instead of 2 times score for the final 2 minutes. And then and that's a give or take point. My main thing that I personally want is just a much tankier Zapdos. I think Zapdos dies way too fast. It creates the coin flip that everybody hates. And it feels like Zapdos is something that you fight over. Like you fight over the kill of Zapdos, you're not fighting over the position and the ability to take Zapdos by yourself. I want Zapdos to be something that influences the team fight first and then leads into the Zapdos fight, or occasionally, because the team fight goes long, it becomes a flip. Right now it feels like almost every Zapdos fight is a flip, especially in solo queue, and that just is like, I think, what a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, it's really hard for me when I think about how to balance it completely. I hear a lot of mixed things about what they want, like what the community wants with Zapdos.
Yeah, there are.
But I do just want the coin flip aspect to be like not a thing for sure. I would like to feel like, you know, like we talked about respawn timers. You take down enemies, you have the lead. You're taking down Zapdos, but they come back up so quick that it just becomes that coin flip, and they could just last hit it and take it. So the important thing for me with Zapdos is that coin flip part of it. It just feels like a lot of your efforts before Zapdos just don't, like, you could have the best game ever, but then they take Zapdos and then you lose that fantastic 8 minutes you had before Zapdos spawned.
Yeah,
just
and
because of that coin flip aspect.
There's so much about the game that is very different between like coordinated 5-man play and like you know, solo, duo, trio queue. And so I think that in my experience, anecdotal experience, I've noticed that the coin flip happens it's so often when you're not playing in a group, but when you're playing in a group, it really is about like, hey, how do we shut down that team and then take Zapdos? So I think that, for me, again, I really pivot on the idea of like, I think Zapdos just dies too fast, because if it was tankier, then it means you have to make a decision on, are you hitting the player or are you hitting the Zapdos? And so it reduces that window where the coin flip is possible. And again, I don't think this is a perfect solution per se, but it's definitely kind of like where I'm at with it right now.
It does feel like it gets taken down really fast right now. Like, you're away from Zapdos for 2 seconds and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know the fix either. I for a long time have been in the camp that I don't think it is a lot of people were like, I can't believe it, it's broken, but I actually think it serves a very important purpose of forcing a big team fight, in a game where people don't get together. However, you're right, it's really squishy, and then someone takes it and all of a sudden you could have the best match ever, and now you've lost by 400 points. And it's very confusing. So, there's something there. I don't know what the fix is, but there's something there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of like what I wanted to bring up. Again, I had to put this one on the list because it's like I even wrote this on my Google Doc. I said, this is the Unites needs list. So I definitely hear, when there's so much feedback from the community that a change needs to happen, even if we can't exactly land on the change, I think it's important to give that representation. So number 19 kind of ties back into my number 15 point about new content, but I wanted to be specific on it. New, like, in-game events, like specific in-game events, Halloween events, a winter Christmas theme event, like we've already gotten. And so this isn't me saying like they need to do this because they've already done it. It's me reminding, like, more of that, do that. One idea I had, I think I brought this up with Jake at one point, was I would love a big, like, 10-player PvE event. They introduce a legendary to the game.
So
introduce a legendary in the game, and you have, like, how they have like the events tab where it's like, oh, you do this, you earn unlocks. We could all fight Mewtwo together as 10 players. Like, and then if you beat him in a certain way, or if you beat him in a certain time, you unlock more resources to spend on those rewards that they're giving out, kind of like the pumpkins. I would love for this, because that's inherently casual, because it's not a competitive event. But it's so fun, and there's so many things they could do. They could put us in a certain type of gym, and we could beat a gym leader. There's so many things that they could do with some kind of a PvE event, and I just think that that'd be so cool.
Yeah, going back to Smite, I don't know when you guys played, but they had this thing called Smart Adventures, and it was a PvE thing in a MOBA, which was so cool. They stopped doing it now. I don't know why, but they had this one where you would fight bigger versions of the gods together, like as a 5 group, or like 5 people in one group, and it was just a CPU. And every time you beat one, it would go to a different god, and the difficulty would increase each time. So it was very fun because we would like compare who got to the highest level. They also had a really weird event where they had Mario Kart, but in Smite. So
What?
you literally drove a car around
What?
and raced everyone. Yeah, it was so weird. They did
Yeah.
that. And that was one of the other events, I guess. But
That's
it was
so
hilarious. The meme quality was really, really top notch. But that was like something they did. So it would be cool, like because legendaries and things like the Mew thing, like you said, that would be so fun. And it would also be like a really nice, like if you want to keep playing Pokemon Unite, but you're like too frustrated with like the competitive part of it, it's a nice like breath of fresh air. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It would be nice to just be able to chill in like a PvE mode, especially because like controlling the Pokemon is still something that I find insanely cool. Just being able to control your Pokemon like that, I really like. So it would be cool to have some an event like you said, where you just fight in PvE.
Yeah, I mean they've done, every Pokemon game has so many things you could pull from. They've got the Dynamax raids, and they've got all these things that you could easily funnel into this game in sort of PvE situations. And I think it could be really, really cool. And a lot of, just like Teed said, a lot of other MOBAs have done things like this. Smite, yeah, they did a bunch of weird stuff. Yeah, there were like horde modes and all this stuff, and it worked really well. And I think people could really get behind it. It's a good idea.
Horde modes. Are you a Gears player?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I was gonna say nobody calls it that unless they're a Gears player. So
nobody calls it a horde. I thought Gears was like they invented it.
They were, but like I've heard people say like, oh, like tower defense modes or something, and then but you come out swinging with the horde mode, so I knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah. So, this is such a big point about this particular bullet point too. I wrote in parentheses. I forgot to read it. This is also another FOMO opportunity. It's the fear of missing out of that special event, right? It's not going to be there forever. Mm-hmm. That sandwich at Hungry Jack's or McDonald's or Jack in the Box, like they can't have it forever because they want people to go out for those seasonal things. It's the same thing. It's all about marketing the game. If you have something that's exclusive in a time window, what does it make people do? It makes them log on and play, right? So it's a really big opportunity for them to market the game in a great way. And just think about it. Have y'all ever seen that it's like I can't remember what movie it's from, but it's like Mewtwo and he's in all that armor.
What is that movie? I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, but it's basically, I mean, long story short, there's a Mewtwo in all this armor. Could you imagine the promotional artwork that they could do with this menacing Mewtwo in this armor, and he's standing there, and it's like, come fight Mewtwo, and that, oh my gosh, that would blow me away. I would freak out. It would be so cool. So the FOMO there, the fear of missing out, would be insane, and I would love that. All right, number 20. This one, again, it's one of those ones that has to make the list. Bug fixes. Like, that's it. That's all I'm putting on the list. And in parentheses, I put snapback. If they don't get rid of this stupid snapback, I'm going to lose it, man.
I literally have, when I stream, I have a sounder. I play Eminem in 8 Mile when he goes, snap back to reality.
You don't.
Every
That's
time
so good.
I do it every time.
That's so good.
Because I'm like, snapback is here. There's no reason not to have this sounder. Yeah, it's such a bizarre problem because, and I don't know, I know I've talked to you about this, Krashy. I'd love to hear Teed's thoughts. At one point, it was like completely fixed, and then the mobile release happened, and it's back worse than ever. I'm curious if Teed's felt the same thing, or if that's just in my own head.
Is this snapback? Isn't it with the Pro controller?
No.
Yeah.
See, so
I don't use the Pro controller.
So here's the thing. I don't use a Pro controller either, though. But I get snapback on. I want to say it's like almost near 50% of my abilities.
I think I do get it, but I'm literally just like, I probably just missed. I don't even think about it.
So here's another anecdote, but I started using a controller from a third-party company called Power A. Power A has a licensing agreement.
I knew this whole thing was an ad.
It's not an ad.
I also have the same feeling, Jake.
So check out the link in the... No, I'm just kidding.
You're like,
No, listen. So, no, I bought a Power A controller because one of my teammates recommended it. They have a licensing agreement with Nintendo, so they make official products. And I bought the controller and I was super pleased with it. It was working great. I had no complaints. And the mobile update hit, and overnight it was like no snapback to snapback. So people tell me all the time, Krashy, it's your controller. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's not the controller. The controller was a week old when it was maybe 4 or 5 days old when the mobile patch hit, and I was getting snapback like crazy. Now here's the thing, on my desk right next to me, I do have my Pro controller. And this thing did get snapback, and it was one of the reasons why I wanted to pull away from it. But this other controller, it just doesn't quite support the evidence that it's just the controller. So if it's a bug, if it's a latency, one of my friends suggested that it might be a lack of dead zone control, because I don't know if y'all know how dead zones work on controllers for other games. It kind of like influences the sticks, long story short. So it's this weird thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but I definitely think it's something that they could at least look into for us,
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I only have that issue that I know of is where you just like stand still at the start of the game.
Oh, that's annoying too. That's like some weird server thing, or I don't even know what that is. It's like, and it's so funny because everybody will all be in a call together and we'll be like, oh, I can't move, and somebody else is like, yep, me neither. It's like, okay, here we go. We're just standing here. So yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, they have lots of bugs, lots of weird little things. I don't know what's going on over there at the studio, but when you see things like Ninetales stats, you have to go, I don't know who's approving things, but things are just kind of things are coming out fast and loose over there.
And so we have finally made it to the last point, and I just want to go ahead and say thank y'all so much for being here. We've been going almost for an hour and a half. I didn't expect it to be like this, but I love it.
An hour and a half?
It's been a long time.
Super quick.
Change my invoice.
And, yeah, right. Exactly. adjust how much I owe y'all. But I do know that people love this long kind of form content, so I can't wait for us to to post it and just to see what the reception is. It gives, some people a good opportunity to just kind of listen throughout the day or whenever they have the free time. But the last point, and again, it's another one of those that I just felt like I had to add to the list, is please stop selling $40 skins. I will never buy a $40 skin. I can't do it. I think that there's an opportunity for them to win over their player base by putting much more affordable cosmetics in the game. And there's probably an opportunity for them to make better sales by making it more affordable and doing things like bundles where you sell the skin with the trainer outfit for like, I don't know, say $30. But to me personally, a 40 USD skin in this game, I can't justify it. It's just it's a lot of money. I know in Australia it's more money. So I don't even know. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. So the interesting thing for me here, because the mobile that I play the most is Smite, but I'm a partner with them, so I don't actually know how much the skins are, and I don't know how much League of Legends skins are. Do you guys know?
I would have to go look. Yeah, but
I'm not positive.
I know in Valorant, because I play I play Valorant, the skins in that game are really expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Really expensive. Like I fell for it and I bought this gun skin and it was $60 and then I used it once and never used it again.
You know what the crazy thing about Valorant skins is? Don't you unlock like the base one, and then if you want to get more, you have to spend more?
Yes.
It's so crazy.
I'm just like, what? And the knife skins, don't even get me started on the knife skins. They're more expensive than the gun skins.
So someone in my chat, when I wrote this point, they were like, I don't know if y'all saw the most recent Fortnite collab with Naruto. Did y'all keep catching? They were like, if I can buy. Someone in my chat said this, and I don't know if this is the correct dollar amount, but someone was like, if I can buy Naruto in Fortnite for $15, I don't feel like I should spend $40 for a Pokemon Unite skin. And I was like,
I was actually gonna bring up. Oh, sorry, go on, Krashy.
No, that's really it. I was like, I kind of understand.
I was gonna bring up because I do play Fortnite too, and they to me have like the best value for like the battle pass, the skins. Like you get so much for like how cheap it is. Like the bundles they do are also really nicely priced as well. I know in Smite they do different tier skins. So like tier 5 skins are really expensive, like actually insanely expensive. I think like over $100.
Oh my gosh.
But I could be wrong. So if anyone in the comments knows, they probably know more than I do with that. So I think in Pokemon Unite, maybe you would consider those as tier 5 skins.
Yeah, they definitely are.
It's a weird thing for me, but I do understand why people wouldn't want them to be.
And again, it ties
40.
back into that whole point about monetization, because I want to make sure I'm being consistent.
Yeah.
I want them to make good money, but
Yeah.
at least in my case, this is all coming through my own perspective. I'm much more
Uh-huh.
willing to spend $25 3, 4, 5
No,
times
yeah.
than to spend $40 like once or twice. Because when I'm looking at that skin, it's like, oh man, can I really justify it? And I just like I want it. Don't get me wrong. I would love to own that Ninetales skin. I don't have it. I can't personally bring myself to do it. I would rather do something else with $40 for me. So what do you
Yeah,
think, Jake,
same.
on the note of expensive
Yeah,
skins?
it's tough because if I wasn't, covering this game like all the time, I would never have bought these skins. I have
Yeah,
to be honest.
absolutely.
However,
Mm.
I am, and I did, and I love them. But the truth is, I don't know how this all shakes out. But what I would like is I would like the most people to be able to play with the most Pokemon, have the game have nothing pay to win. And if that means financially, the skin market needs to be supported by essentially the whales in the game, and that pays for everything. I kind of don't mind. This is all just in my head. I have no
Yeah.
clue the financials of any of this
Oh,
stuff.
so
But
you're a socialist.
But
is that what it is?
No,
Am I saying-
I don't know.
Yeah, like what Jake said, I like that's the
Yeah.
hard thing, right? 'Cause it's a free to play game, so that's where my like I think maybe me and Jake are on a similar line here with that. Um, it's because it's a free to play game. It's really hard to say like if they should or shouldn't do that. But I also wonder like would they make more money if the skins were cheaper? Maybe like because maybe more people would buy them. But
It's
that's
yeah,
like, you know,
it's
some
one of
insight
those
I just will
things.
never have.
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like they have the data and we don't, right? And
Because like
so
yeah.
maybe they're on the right side of things, and I'm just the one person, or not the one person, but I'm in the minority group that's like it's not worth it. But I do know
think-
from my personal spending tendencies, I would love to buy those skins for like $20, $30
Yeah.
and buy it all the time. 40, just I don't know what it is. It's something about that number that just really kind of pushes it over the line for me.
I totally agree with you on the number. It's so high. I
It's
can't believe
high.
it's so high. But
mean,
at the
like-
same time, like I do wonder if it is literally. I've heard this, and everything I've heard, this is all secondhand and probably wrong, but I've heard that 99% of people pay nothing, and then 1% of people fund like the entire game when it comes to these free to play
Oh, I
games. So I'm
believe it.
just wondering if they go, look, we could make the skin $80 and dumb Jake over here is still gonna buy it. So I just wonder if it's just how these games have to operate. But then again, I played Smite for years, and literally you buy Smite, you give them $30 or whatever, and you unlock every god that they release from beginning to end. So there are definitely different ways to do it, and a $40 skin feels very, very steep, especially for what
Yeah,
they
it
give you.
is it? I heard someone said that the enemy team can't see the effects. Is that true? I don't have any $40 skins, so
I
I
actually have
don't know.
never thought about that. I don't know.
Like, do you remember Pumpkin Lucario throwing like a pumpkin at you ever?
Oh, geez. I feel like I have, but then again, maybe I'm just thinking of my own
I was
pumpkins.
gonna say I couldn't even think about it. Yeah, that's such an interesting
Yeah.
thought.
I wonder, like, because I would buy the skin if it was cheaper personally, and then I would use them in my videos and probably would help promote the skin better too. So I do think maybe it would be more beneficial to just make them cheaper. But again, I just have no insights to how much they're actually making. But I rarely see people with these skins on. I think the only times I've actually had them in my game was like in my bot games because
The bots are
everybody-
always decked out. They look
Wow!
so good. As a
Now
bot
we
team.
now we know what the bot matches are for. It's a giant
Yeah.
ad.
Yeah, it's a
it's an ad. That's
I
funny.
knew this whole thing
No,
was an
yeah,
ad.
it
know,
is kind
right?
of a spectacle when you do see a player with one of those skins on, because you're like, oh wow, he bought it, because I would say that it's pretty rare for me. I do see the Ninetales skin every now and then. Even lately, I'll say I've seen people with the newest Venusaur Battle Pass skin, which means they had to have paid for it because there's no way to get it this early. So yeah, it's always kind of a spectacle when you see someone that has it, and I think that that's such a special moment to be like, oh wow, yeah, the player has that, but it feels gated behind a gigantic paywall instead of just like a more formidable paywall for me. But again,
Yeah.
a lot of these lower points on the list some of them are really kind of negligible. They're just things I like to see or want to see more of. and the top side of this list was like I feel like they have to do it. So
yeah,
I feel like we
You know what?
really no,
I
go
have
for it. Yeah.
something to add with this whole cosmetic aspect. Going back to Smite again, they have like base recall skins, so those things you could buy. They have borders for their loading screens, which is another cosmetic thing you can buy. So there's a lot of little things they actually can add. Like instead of just tying it to a $40 skin with these effects, you could probably have it like as a separate thing to buy. Or like in chess, they do a chess system in Smite that works really well. Like it's cheaper and you get something random, probably something like a chance to get something really good. I don't know. I know a lot of people like probably don't support this whole like gambling, looting thing.
Yeah,
but it's just a
like
way that they could.
What is it called now? Don't we have something similar to that? I can't think of what it's called. The thing on the homepage and you roll it and you see what comes out of it.
Oh, the energy rewards.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
does that cost real money? I
think you
just
can
don't use it.
you can buy like more of those. I think I don't really know. I don't ever use it either, but I
Oh,
think
really?
I think
keep
you
getting
can.
duplicates.
Yeah, I think you can buy those.
Or
But
maybe they should add like some base. Oh, the base recalls and stuff. Like it'd be cool to not just only have it when there's like on a skin or something.
My thing is like if you want to sell $40, put it on a bundle. Give me like a sticker for it. Give me one of those. You know how they have like the I can't think of what they're called. The it's like the little ring, the circle thing that goes around your. Oh my gosh, I can't think of what it is. It's like the cosmetic that you get. You got one for the Space Gengar suit.
Oh yeah, what are they called?
You know what I'm talking about.
For your profile?
Yeah, it's like the little profile, the portrait frame. Yeah, so you could get one of those. They could give me a sticker. They could give me the skin, and they could give me the trainer outfit and sell it for like $40 or $50. And like that's like because at that point you're like, oh, you're looking at the value of it.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about like the whole separate trainer skin and the Pokemon
because you have to buy the skin for $40, and then the trainer skin is like $30, and we're looking like I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
So it does get pretty expensive.
It's really wild. I can't even defend it. But I keep buying them, but I can't defend it at all.
Listen, I will say this much though. Like as far as content creators go, it's a lot easier for us to buy it because it really does like kind of play into the business of what we're doing because we get to kind of show it off and we get to kind of marvel in it. I
literally have people donate to me and they'll donate to me and they'll say, get the Ninetales skin.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to turn away this money and be like, no.
All right, if I could find one of those viewers out there, y'all don't mind coming my way.
Yes, if you're that viewer from Jake's stream, please come to us.
I'm gonna come into Krashy's stream and I'm gonna donate. I'm gonna be like, go buy the skin right now in front of everybody.
It's funny. I had an IRL friend that did that with the Absol skin. He was like, "Yo, buy the hat," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, don't give me your money to make me buy a hat." But I did it. So yeah. So friends, thank y'all so much for spending this time with me. This is a big ask, so I couldn't appreciate it more. Y'all are both amazing.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Just like that tweet I shot the other night, I am so inspired and lucky to have y'all as like colleagues. It's been such an experience in this game and this community, and I'm even, I'm dipping my toes in Pokemon more, and I'm having a blast with it. It's such a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's always good hanging with you, Krashy, and for the first time, finally with Tees. So this has just been a little slice of heaven, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so funny because the other night on stream, I was like, Jake's the content cowboy. I like jokingly used to call myself the content king, and I was like, we got to come out with a content name for Teeds. And I was like, she's the content. I was like, she's the content queen, but it's like a separate thing. Like we're in different castles,
separate kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. I gave an inappropriate name to Loosh. It's an Australian word that gets thrown around a lot, but I can't say that on this video.
Oh, you better tell me after this this video then.
Here, look,
I refuse to never tell me. I never want to know.
I'm gonna type it in our Discord chat just for the laugh of it while we're on recording. Yeah, you can't say it out loud, but that's what I called Loosh.
You know what? That's not even offensive to me as an Australian.
That's
I
my
understand
point.
it completely.
Yeah, and he was like, I don't want that name. I was like, it's too bad. That's you now.
It's amazing. Why would it? Loosh is not very real Australian, is he?
I don't know. It is what it is. But friends, thank y'all so much for being here. We appreciate anybody that made it this long into the video, and drop us some thoughts. Give us what is on your list, right? Because this is 21 things. I feel like I know I missed some things or just didn't say enough about them. But man, I really ripped into this for like an hour plus on stream. Just like, what does the game need? I want to figure it all out. And I think that if they start chopping at this list here and there, working on it, improving, learning, that's the beautiful part of it. I had one last thought, and I wrote this down, and me and Jake have talked about this in the past as well. I said developers see changes daily. The players see changes in chunks, and that's meant to add perspective. We get on the game and we see the game the same way for months. The developers go into their jobs, or they're doing their jobs, and they change the game daily. So just to add some perspective, I know they're working hard. I believe that they're trying to do their best work. And at the end of the day, these developers are also human. So, you know, I try to give myself that perspective to remind myself that I'm not just talking to a brick wall, and that I'm not raging to the heavens for change. It's there's these people, they're working hard, and I have a lot of faith in them, because I know that the game that they've built has been so amazing, and I just want more of that amazing work. So
well said.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, friends. As always, we'll see y'all on the next video.
Bye.
Bye.